I hear all the time that Armor Emblem's expensive and it's hard to use. Well, I'm here to give you 5 different tips so that you can do Armor Emblem cheaply and effectively. Greetings and salutations, my name is Deltran, helping you build killing machines so that you can dominate in PvP and special hero maps. If you want help earning all the orbs, feathers, sacred coins, and heroes the game throws at you every week, consider subscribing. So to the right, you're going to see some video of me completing all the armor quests for the month. I started off using the armors that I just got from the most recent event, and I was using all of my strong guys, and I went through the first maps, and then I thought to myself, you know, this would be a great time for me to use some less appreciated units in order to get through here. So I'm using units that are easily available from summoning, mainly Draug and Gwendolyn. And then the other 2 units that are available in the 4-star pool are Effie and Sheena. And with these 4, I made a team, and I'm going through, and I did not cherry pick this video. I think it's just the tail end of it, and I had some horrible fails. And I think it is absolutely good to have those fails in there. Sometimes you just have to fight 2 Reinhardts in different trials. Sometimes you have to fight against things that are just terrible for your matchup. But when it comes down to it, I was pretty darn successful. I was able to complete that in, I think it took me like half hour to go through that. It was fun, it was great, and it was very, very doable. So I have 5 tips for you right now that are going to help you use a cheap Armor Emblem team to be able to not only go through the daily and monthly quests with Armor Emblem, but to even go into PvP with them if that's what you want to do with them. So my first tip for you is that you need to stack those buffs. We're going to go over the buffs in greater detail later on, but just like you would with Horsey Emblem, just like you would with Fire Emblem, and just like you do with Blade Tomes, you need to be able to make sure all your buffs are in place. If you don't do that, then you're not leveraging all the benefits that the Armor Emblem teams are giving you. I say that because they are super, super slow, and while they have an adjusted base stat score to compensate for that, they're also given, just like any of the other specific emblem-style teams, they're given special buffs that buff 2 stats at once. A Hone-style buff, like Hone Armor, and then a Spur-style buff, like Goat Armor. With these buffs, this is what's actually compensating for their slowness. This is what's compensating for any kind of detriment that you're seeing with Armor Emblem. The second tip is you need to actually finish filling out all their kit using a cheap SI. Now, if you take tip number 5 to heart, you're gonna miss all the great SI tips that I have after the list comes. But, which is great, please do. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and just talk about a quick few things. First of all, Bonfire is fantastic on all of them. Bonfire lets you leverage that high defense they have and turn it into damage, which is great. Another thing to mention is the Brave weaponry is easily available from 3 and 4 star pools, and you can put that on them without the plus, and it's going to give you a lot more bang for your buck. Lastly, I want to mention that the 2 buffs that we're talking about are off of the 2 most common heroes in the entire pool, and that is Draug and Gwendolyn. I don't know how many of those guys I have gotten from 3-star pools, let alone anything else. They are everywhere. And if you are not taking their buffs and putting them on other armors, then that's a problem. That's going to change today, because it's going to make a world of difference. The third tip I have for you is to use reposition and swap on all your armors. Now wait a minute, isn't that like an SI thing? It is, but it's super important to mention for 2 reasons. One, you need to have that mobility in your Armor Emblem team. They are slow. If you want to be able to actually get to the enemy as opposed to the enemy getting to you, then you need to be able to have movement-based skills. Now, it used to be very meta to simply have swap on all your armor units, and a lot of people are still living with that, but it's not good enough anymore. You need to have reposition on 2 of your armors within your team, and then the other 2 should have swap. That way you have the flexibility that you need to be able to quickly redeploy and put the right units up front and the more vulnerable units in the back. if you have all swap, you know, it's cute. You could do all day long around there, and yeah, you can say, oh, they're up front. But you know what? Fast, ranged units, specifically Reinhardt, can just have their pick over you. And if you're in PvP arena, that basically ruins your perfect deathless arena run. And that's what'll happen to you if you have all swaps. If you have all repositions, there's going to be a time where you just can't use it. Armor Emblem puts themselves into tight spaces naturally because of how slow they move. And so with that, sometimes you can't use reposition. Now, sometimes there'll be a time where you need 2 swaps so that you could just move a couple people around and sort of like fan out. Other times you're going to want 2 repositions so that you could leapfrog yourself and keep running across the field. That's fine, and you can separate your people that way so that it helps make sense. But if you don't diversify your movement skills, you're going to have a world of hurt. The 4th tip that I have for you is that you need to merge your units. And once again, we're talking mainly about Draug and Gwendolyn. If you're not trying to make a plus 10 4-star variant of these guys, I don't know what I've talked about this so many times in other videos. It's amazing. A plus 5 4-star hero is roughly equivalent, minus the weapon usually, and any other skills that are unlocked, is equivalent to a 5-star hero. That means a plus 10 4-star hero is better than a 5-star hero. They have a higher BST, which means they have a higher attack, defense, I mean the whole shebang. So definitely merge them, and it's easier to use this idea with Draug and Gwendolyn because you're going to get a lot more of them because they're in the 3-star pool. With Sheena and Effie, especially if you have plus attack variants of those guys, it's wonderful to merge them. Just go ahead and whenever you see that, just start to merge those units. The only reason why you shouldn't be merging Gwendolyn and Draug is because of their armor buffs. So make sure that you go ahead and assign those as you need them, but otherwise merge them. Even the 3 stars, keep them, upgrade them to 4, merge them. The 5th tip that I have for you is to fail, and to fail fast. This works for so many things in life, let alone Armor Emblem. Take your Armor Emblem team that you've assembled. I don't even care if it's 2 Gwendolyns and 2 Draugs. It doesn't have to be that 4-pack there. It's whatever you can end up creating. It'd be nice if they all had different IVs if they're similar, just so that you can actually utilize them in different scenarios and in different ways. But take that foursome, go to the top of the training tower, enter the training tower, and fight with them. If you lose one of the armored units, don't just surrender. Don't be like, oh, I'm not going to get credit for the quest. No, keep fighting. You need to just earn a little experience with these guys so that you can understand how to use them, because of that speed detriment that they have, they are really different than anyone else. So go ahead and play around with that 4-pack. And once you're done with your stamina, spend a stamina potion and do it again. And if I were you, once that stamina's gone, I would spend another stamina potion and do it again. By the time you spend 300 stamina with that group, you should have an intuitive idea of what kind of situations are going to get them in a corner that they can't get out of, what type of situations they can muscle their way out of, and you'll probably eventually start to get to the point where you'll be able to take advantage of all of that bulk, all of that power, and be able to just start to dominate on the field. Now, let's go ahead and talk about some quick, cheap SI options for all of them real quick. This foursome, it's a great combo. Let's start with Draug. Now, my Draug is super powered, but I only leveraged that about once in this video. Otherwise, Draug is a great candidate. Now, he comes with Brave Sword, which is a good weapon. But if you want to change things up, you can go ahead and go with Wu Dao. And if you give Wu Dao to him, give him Moonbow, it's going to get you a lot more damage as he attacks. It's just fantastic. If you're not going the Wu Dao route, go ahead and give him Bonfire. Bonfire's great. It's going to charge super quick with that Brave Sword. You're going to really enjoy what you see there. The B slot, I don't care. I would switch it out from his default, but you know what, that's your choice. Go ahead and do whatever you want. If you want to do a quick variant, a quick riposte, you can. It's not my recommendation if it's Brave Sword, but if it's Wu Dao, it's not a bad option. If you want to do Bandage, that's fine. I wouldn't do Brave Sword for that one either, but that's also a good idea. You could go ahead and put whatever you want in there, your choice. The C-slot skill, leave it. I do have one extra thing here, and this actually works really well for Brave Sword, since the other two suggestions I had didn't work well for Brave Swords. If you go with Miracle, it's going to charge quickly, and whenever it goes off, it will save your life once. Now, if you put Renewal in that B slot, you'll be able to get to use Miracle again later on, and this is useful not so much in PvP, but in Tempest Trials, and sometimes in different PvE special maps. Now, the idea here is that actually in PvP, a lot of people balance things such that the last hit might have a lot of overkill damage, but they're like, oh good, the second tap of the Brave Bow, or of this or that, my special is going to go off, and that's going to be all my damage, is just truckload of damage, and is going to kill the enemy. That's what you're hoping for, because you'll live through that, and then all the calculations that your opponent has done go right out the window, and Draug will be standing there ready to retaliate. It's so much fun to be able to either you live through people's attacks if you take them into arena, or to ruin people's perfect runs by throwing Miracle on there. It's incredible how often Miracle ends up messing people up, so I highly recommend that you take a look at using Miracle. The next person we'll look at is Gwendolyn, since she's one of the easier ones to obtain. Her weapon, I really recommend switching that out for a Brave Lance. And just the Brave Lance. You don't need a Brave Lance Plus. The Plus is important for Brave Lance users, and if you want to continue to use your Gwendolyn effectively, I'd highly recommend getting one. But you don't need one in the beginning. You don't need one at all in the beginning. So what you should do is just put a Brave Lance on her. Now, her attack is terrible. You're probably not going to do much damage against many different targets, but if you put Bonfire on her, it's going to supercharge her. She has a high, really, really high damage rate because of the defense from that. You are going to stand there and not take any damage, while you're going to start to chip away implies a little damage over time. You're going to have big spikes in damage, and you'll be able to fend off 1-2 different people while just letting them hit you, and oh good, I get to charge my Spectral, and here we go. So it works out super well. You could do the Miracle thing with her if you want as well, but I recommend putting reposition on her, simply because whenever you have her charging somebody with her buff, she comes with Hone Armor. That's fantastic. It doesn't stack. What I like to do is I like to let her go ahead and charge somebody up, and then you just fling them up over top of her, and then you go one space away. This lets you have the benefit of still, if that unit has ward, still providing the ward to Gwendolyn. She still gets that in case somebody else comes around the other side and ignores whoever you threw up front because of different matchup challenges or whatever have you. This unit may still even benefit from a ward from someone else because the wards always jump too. That's basically just a fantastic way to use reposition to throw somebody out there and to let them deal damage and yet still be protected and still be covered. So I like to put reposition on my Gwendolyn, but I also like to have some diversity. And speaking of diversity, we'll go ahead and talk about Effie next, because she's the blue unit that most people always go to, and for good reason. She hits like a truck. Put Brave Lance on her. I have a 5-star variant of Effie, and I had normal vanilla Brave Lance on her, because I keep forgetting to put Plus on her, because her performance is still superb on the battlefield. It's embarrassing how hard she hits. It really is, especially with just a normal Brave Lance. So put the Brave Lance on her. Now, you can go ahead and put Bonfire if you want. To be honest with you, if you are running short on Bonfire fodder, she needs it the least. It's very helpful, but she needs it the least. So go ahead and skip her for now if you need to. And keep Wary Fighter. That's great. Deathblow is fine. Put Swap on her and give her the other Hone style buff, or go ahead and give her a ward. It doesn't matter. But if you put Swap on her, now you have one blue unit that has reposition. You have another blue unit that has Swap. And if you're running 2 Gwendolyns, that's what I would recommend as well. Is one has reposition and one has Swap. If you ever get an Effie, you could always just either inherit that one to the other one, or to Effie, so that you can get all the skills, or you can just merge that one into your Gwendolyn, give yourself a plus, and then you have all those skills there that you could interchange in between from the difference between the two Gwendolyns you had. There's not a lot to talk about with Effie because she's great. She's fantastic. If you have a variant of her, especially if it's plus attack, that's worth keeping around. I'm not going to find too many of her anymore, unfortunately, unless RNG just seems to throw a bunch at you, because the 4-star pool is getting so filled up. But having an Effie is not out of the question, even for budget in free-to-play players. Now, the last unit is Sheena, and she gets a bad rap, and I can understand why. She doesn't really kill much. As a matter of fact, a lot of people like to put poison and savage blow on her because that's the only way it seems like she does any damage. Now, for leveling her, I totally recommend putting Poison Strike on her as her B-slot skill. It's gonna save you a lot of aggravation trying to level her up. But once you put her on the battlefield, she uses a lot of other skills a lot better. You can put Wary Fighter on her, and that'll slow down the pace at which she gets attacked, which is good because she has an okay, comparatively, an okay defense. It's still great compared to everybody else. And she has a pretty good resistance, and you can leverage that, but you need to have Wary Fighter on her so that she can slow down the pace at which everybody attacks her. And then you can go and use her as that wall that everybody just plinks off of. Get rid of her Fortify skill. Fortify is not worth it. The reason why we're sticking with Hone is twofold. One, with Hone, it's a huge buff, and it's to attack and to speed. That is worthwhile having. Secondly, you can't get Goad on the cheap. Goad is currently only available on one unit as of recording, and that's Hector. If you have a Hector, hey, great, use them. If not, this is not about Hector. This is about everybody you can get cheaply and easily. So go ahead and get rid of Fortify and put in Ward, because the Ward is only 2 less. That 2 extra damage is usually not enough of a buffer to stop you from dying, and it has that range, and it stacks. So if you have her with Ward, if you have Draug with Ward, and if you have a third person with Ward, or even if you don't, it doesn't matter, you can potentially have +8 to all your defenses, because they will stack. Fortifies and Hones don't stack. So that's what I recommend there. Now, the last thing I want to mention concerning her... Oh, yeah, go ahead and put the... I recommend reposition for her if you're doing Ward, and it's for the exact opposite reason that I said I want to have reposition on Gwendolyn. This means that you have diversity, by the way, which is important, because then you can use swap and reposition to put people where you need them to and have the right situation for you. In this case, you want to have reposition on them because you're going to keep your Ward on them once they move away from you, once you reposition them up over top of yourself to send after an enemy, and that is fantastic. Now, the last thing I want to mention is that I have had quite a bit of success with armor teams, and it takes time. It really does. And there's a lot of information out there, and this is the experience that I have had. I have seen a lot out there, and I had to sit on this video for a while because sometimes when I see... I don't know why it's with Armor Emblem. With other teams, I'm like, oh yeah, no, okay, I can see that. No, whenever people give advice on Armor Emblem, I always end up getting like, no, that's not the way it is! So I had to settle the heck down before I had to post this video. But I want to open this up to you. What tip here did you like the most? Which one is giving you the most bang for your buck? Or which tip here is the one that you're like, no, that's absolutely crazy, don't do that, nobody do that. Let me know down in the comments. I want to start a conversation with you, regardless of which side of the fence you sit on. And also do me the favor of subscribing if you like your Fire Emblem information hot and fresh like Grandma's cookies. My name is Deltran. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate all of you. And until next time, take it easy.